On today's episode of Pop History Podcast, Jail or Alimony, a 92-year-old man makes his choice. You know your band is huge when they make a video game about your album, and Jumpman is taking the world by storm. Let's kick it!
It's time for another episode of Pop History Podcast, which opens a chronological time capsule of the music, movies, and television memories of our past. If you are a fan of nostalgia, a child of the 80s, or just a pop culture historian, stay tuned for your lesson in pop history. Now here's your host, Jay Jackson.
Billboard ranks them, AT40 counting them down years ago. Now, Pop History Podcast takes you on a trip down memory lane. Today we're looking at the month of July 1981. Let's get to the music. Number 10. This jazz vocal group was founded in New York City in 1969. They had mediocre success throughout the 1970s, but would break through with their new single. Here is the Manhattan Transfer with The Boy from New York City. You might think that song has a 60s sound to it, and you would be correct. Kicking out the countdown this month is the Manhattan Transfer with The Boy from New York City, a song originally recorded by the Ad-Libs, that's Ad-Libs, in 1964, when it peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. What was happening in the world in July of 1981? Fulfilling his campaign promise, President Ronald Reagan chooses Arizona Judge Sandra Day O'Connor to become the first woman justice in the history of the Supreme Court, calling her, quote, truly a person for all seasons. Not everyone is a fan of Reagan's choice. The Reverend Jerry Falwell's organization, Moral Majority, opposed the nomination of O'Connor on the ground of her pro-abortion voting record while a state senator. In what sounds like a scene from a horror film, hundreds of bees swarmed from a field and attacked 3 ladies walking along a gravel road in Canesville, Missouri. 2 of the women were injured, and a third, 57-year-old Margaret Brenzer, died from the toxicity of the bee stings. Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, I'm sure I murdered that name, whose government is receiving U.S.-made warplanes again, praised Ronald Reagan as, quote, the best president for Israel since Richard Nixon. In Florida, 92-year-old Robert Rabinoff says he would rather be jailed for 30 days than pay his ex-wife $1,200 in alimony. The couple divorced in February, and Rabinoff did make a few monthly payments before he, according to lawyers, quote, regretted paying the first penny and would rather sit in jail than give it to her. Did you catch that part at the beginning where I said the guy was 92? 3 masked robbers broke into the famed London Cartier jewelry house and fled with about $2 million in gems. But they missed the jackpot. A $7.5 million delivery of precious stones had arrived minutes after they escaped. The U.S. government gave its first approval to an artificial sweetener in nearly a quarter century, aspartame. It's approved for use in the home as a sugar substitute and for use by manufacturers to sweeten cold cereals, drink mixes, instant coffee, and tea, gelatins, puddings, and pie fillings. Aspartame, a combination of 2 naturally occurring amino acids, is about 180 times sweeter than sugar. In Kansas City, Missouri, 2 elevated concrete walkways at the Hyatt Regency Hotel collapsed onto a lobby floor full of dancers on a Friday night. The final death toll will be 111 partygoers. After 128 years, the Washington Star announces they will cease publication on August 7th, leaving the nation's capital with only one daily newspaper, the Washington Post. One group of retailers claim to be hitting it big with the Major League Baseball strike this summer, and that's the home repair and garden stores. According to the Wall Street Journal, since the players walked off the job on June 12th, their business has been skyrocketing, selling more tools, fencing, paint, lumber, and barbecues. President Reagan announces his immigration policy, which calls for a fine of $500 and $1,000 for employers who knowingly hire illegal aliens. Schlitz Brewing, the beer that made Milwaukee famous, is leaving town. The 6.8 million barrel malt beverage plant, the least modern of the Schlitz facilities, has not been in production since May 31st, when employees went on strike over a new contract. As a result, over 700 employees will be laid off. And I know you've been waiting all year for this. It finally came. The royal wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer is held this month on July 29th. The 2 royal faces are everywhere across England, from coffee mugs to magazine covers. 32-year-old Prince Charles expects to cry at the wedding, while Lady Diana says they will not meet the day before the wedding because, quote, we might quarrel. In addition, the soon-to-be princess also revealed that she will not promise to obey Prince Charles in her wedding vows, but she will pledge to love him, comfort him, honor, and keep him. U.S. First Lady Nancy Reagan has said she will not curtsy to the royalty, instead greets Queen Elizabeth II with a handshake and a slight nod of her head. It's estimated that some 750 million people worldwide watch the ceremony on television, dubbed by Archbishop Runitz as the stuff of which fairy tales are made. Number 9! The Pointer Sisters have always looked into different genres to incorporate into their soul sound. For their latest album, Black and White, they added a few tablespoons of country to their music mix, and the result is the first single from the record. Here is the Pointer Sisters with Slow Hand.
I saw the look in your eyes, looking into mine.
crazy wind of the night. Darling, don't say a word, 'cause I already heard what your body's saying to mine. If I want it all night, you say it's alright. Ooh, we got the time, 'cause I got a man with a slow hand. I got a lover with an easy touch. I've got somebody who will spend some time, not come and go in a heated rush. I found somebody who will understand. When it comes to love, I want a slow hand. Ooh. If I want it all night, please say it's alright. It's not a fast move, but a slow groove on my mind. 'Cause I got a man with a slow hand. I've got a lover with an easy touch. I found somebody who will spend some time, not come and go in a heated rush. I found somebody who will understand. I found a lover with a slow hand. Ooh, lover with a slow hand. And I got all excited with his easy touch. I found somebody who will spend the night, not come and go in a heated rush.
That was Slow Hand by the Pointer Sisters. The song will be covered by country singers Del Reeves later in 1981 and by Conway Twitty in 1982. Let's take a look at the rock and roll news this summer. Looks like Elton John's The Fox album, his debut on Geffen, is being termed a disaster by some in the music business. It never reached the national top 20 in album sales. Jerry Lee Lewis remains in critical condition from his second abdominal surgery in less than 2 weeks. Doctors say he has a 50-50 chance to live. And he's still kicking. Rick James says it's hard to break into rock as a black man. There are too many barriers that keep blacks out of rock, he said. It's hard to pinpoint them because they're very subtle and insidious. Let's face it, rock is white music. The fans are mostly white. It's so tough for blacks to break into this white domain that most of us don't even bother. The police have finally caught up to 27-year-old George Presley. The man has been posing as Styx lead guitarist James Young for the past 2 years. Presley began the charade by getting into New York clubs and did a New Jersey record store appearance. His facade as the rock star also gained him some sexual favors, some with teenage girls, which had done him in. He was found guilty of statutory rape in Texas and sentenced to 20 years in jail. Let's take a look at the top R&B albums on the Billboard chart this week. At number 5, It Must Be Magic by Tina Marie. Number 4, A Woman Needs Love by Ray Parker Jr. and Radio. Number 3, Stephanie by Stephanie Mills. Number 2, Knights of the Sound Table by Cameo. And topping the R&B album charts this month is Rick James with Street Songs. And here is the kickoff track to the album, Give It To Me Baby.
that sweet, that funky stuff. Give it to me. Give me that stuff, that funk, that sweet, that funky stuff. Give it to me, give it to me. Give it to me, give it to me. Give me that stuff, that sweet, funky stuff. That stuff, that funk, that sweet, that funky stuff. Give it to me. Give me that stuff, that funk, that sweet, that funky stuff. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give me that stuff, that sweet, funky stuff.
Number 8. This next single had a few chances to become a hit of its own. It was written and recorded by Rick Christian in 1978, but it failed to chart. Harry Nilsson recorded it in 1979 for his Flash Harry album, but didn't release it as a single. Earlier this year, Madeline Marks recorded it as well. It took country icon Kenny Rogers to make I Don't Need You a hit, and here it is, crossing over to the pop charts again this month at number 8.
I don't need you, I don't need friendship, and I don't need flowers in the spring, and I don't need you, and you surely don't need me. I don't need love and affection, and I don't need peace and harmony, and I don't need you, and you surely don't need me. But we both want it bad enough. Yes, we both want it, don't we? I don't need you, baby, and I know you don't need me. I don't need your loving arms around me. I need is to be free. That's what I keep telling myself, and I tell you, you don't need me. I don't need children in my old age. And we don't need each other, baby. We don't need each other, baby. Or do we?
Emerald Dry from Paul Masson. It's silky smooth. It's fresh and bright. It's emerald cool. It's crisp. It's sophisticated. It's Emerald Dry from Paul Masson. We will sell no wine before it's time.
We want to make you smile.
Welcome back. I see you brought a friend.
My boss hasn't smiled the whole trip. My back.
I think you'll like our beds.
Big room.
Everything all right?
Just fine. Call me for dinner in an hour.
We made him smile.
Come to Holiday Inn where your smile sits. We're number one people pleasing.
Boob Tube News. CBS announces a plan to introduce 3 satellite programming networks based on new technology called high-definition television. The technology will be broadcast directly to locally affiliated CBS stations, homes, and cable TV systems. The new trends in television sets: more and more sets are using digital frequency tuning. They require no fine-tuning. You can recognize such sets by their calculator-like tuning keypads, which let you get any station by punching in the number. No more clicking and no more tuning to the UHF dial for channels 14 to 83. The tuner automatically switches to UHF mode when you turn from channel 13 to 14. You don't even know you're on another band. Stephen Ford, son of former President and Mrs. Gerald Ford, joins the cast of the CBS show The Young and the Restless. He portrays Andy, a former race car driver and rodeo performer turned bartender. A fire damages the Victorian mansion seen at the beginning of each Mary Tyler Moore show. The roof and attic were heavily damaged, but firemen believe it can be repaired. The house is in Minneapolis. Producers may want him to, but Rick Springfield, who portrays Dr. Noah Drake on ABC's General Hospital, will not sing on the show. Forget it! My character wouldn't sing. He's a doctor. His father was a doctor. His grandfather was a doctor. This guy wouldn't have the time or the inclination to get into rock and roll. He's not the type. It wouldn't be believable, Springfield said. His recording career has just taken off with his album Working Class Dog and the hit Jesse's Girl, which we might get to. Back in 1981, summers were pretty quiet on the TV circuits. Many networks simply just ran reruns. One show did happen to get the axe this summer, the Alice spin-off Flo starring Polly Holiday. The show started out as a hit on Monday nights in 1980, but appears that moving it to Saturdays in February of 81, then to June this year, couldn't keep the viewers. Number 7! The show made its debut in March of 1981, and the theme song, Believe It or Not, became just as popular as the show. Here is Joey Scarberry with Believe It or Not, the theme from Greatest American Hero.
Look at what's happened to me. I can't believe it myself. Suddenly I'm up on top of the world. It should have been somebody else.
What's playing at the local drive-in this summer? Well, after many of his early 70s movies were criticized by many movie critics, writer-director Blake Edwards returns with S.O.B., a satire of the film industry and Hollywood society, starring his wife, Julie Andrews. In 1997, a dystopian society riddled with crime has resulted in the entire Manhattan Island of New York City being converted to a maximum security prison in Escape from New York, starring Kurt Russell. The film was directed by John Carpenter and written by him in the mid-70s. After the success of Halloween, Carpenter was able to finance the film. 4 years after The Rescuers, Disney releases a new animated feature, The Fox and the Hound. At the time, it was the most expensive animated film ever produced, costing $12 million. But it would be a success. It took in over $63 million. Under the Rainbow is not a sequel to The Wizard of Oz, but instead is a loose story of the little people auditioning for roles in the classic film of 1938. This stars Chevy Chase and Carrie Fisher, and they couldn't save the film from brutal reviews from critics and empty theater seats.
He's sexy, zany, sensational.
You recognize that famous sign, huh?
Oh, yes, senor. It is a number 2.
No, it's the sign of
Sorrow. Oh, sorrow.
That is a little more like it.
20th Century Fox and Melvin Simon Productions present George Hamilton. And George Hamilton as One Destiny.
The helpless.
2 brothers.
To befriend the friendless.
1 legend.
To defeat the feetless.
2 color schemes.
I thought it helps to keep them guessing.
Thrill to the magnificent return of the 2 and only Zorro.
What are you waiting for? Here he is.
Swing with Zorro. Ball with Zorro. And catch a few Z's with Zorro.
You're the bravest man I ever visited.
I'm very impressed myself, too.
Out of the night, out of the past, out of the legend comes George Hamilton. George Hamilton, Lauren Hutton, Brenda Vaccaro, Ron Liebman, and a cast of peasants in Zorro, the Gay Blade.
Who knew that classic swashbuckler Zorro had a gay twin brother? Audience find out the story this month with the release of Zorro the Gay Blade, starring George Hamilton in a dual role as Zorro and his brother named Bunny Wigglesworth. John Travolta stars in the political thriller Blowout, written and directed by Brian De Palma. De Palma, a self-confessed Hitchcock fanatic, was not offended when critics recognized his stylistic and narrative connections to the work of Hitchcock. Albert Finney and Gregory Hines try to solve a string of murders which appear to be animal attacks in the crime horror film The Wolfen. Brooke Shields returns to the big screen in the tragic comedy Endless Love. The film is most notable for the title song performed by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie, which I'm sure we'll get to soon. It's also the film debut of a young actor named Tom Cruise. Very small role.
Don't you wish you were Arthur?
Was it more attractive if you please step forward?
It's gonna cost you $100.
Let's make it $200, but I will ask you to simonize my car.
How rich are you?
I wish I had a dime for every dime I have.
Anticipating your condition, I brought you orange juice, coffee, and aspirins. Or do you need to throw up?
Kiss your wife like that?
I'm not married.
Keep smiling. 688-5549.
Usually one must go to a bowling alley to meet a woman of your stature.
I take it this bum will be calling you.
Dad, he's a millionaire.
You have my permission to marry him. Are you a hooker? I forgot. I just thought I was doing great with you.
Will you take my hand?
That would leave you with one. I'm going to take my coat.
You don't have a coat.
Well, I'm going to take my tie.
You're a rich one? How does it feel to have all that money?
Feels great.
A dumb question.
What's so funny now?
I sometimes just think funny things.
What do you do for a living?
I race cars, I play tennis, I fondle women, but I have weekends off and I am my own boss.
Dudley Moore is Arthur.
Don't you wish you were me? I know I do.
Don't you wish you were Arthur? Arthur, the most fun money can buy. An Orion Pictures release through Warner Brothers.
Dudley Moore stars as a drunken millionaire who is on the brink of an arranged marriage, but ends up falling in love with a common working-class girl, played by Liza Minnelli, in the comedy Arthur. The film would be a huge success, placing it in the top 5 highest-grossing films of the year, and more, getting an Oscar nomination. A less successful sequel would hit in 1988, and an even less successful remake starring Russell Brand in 2011. Number 6. We seem to have a lot of cover songs back in the 80s. Guess we still do, huh? And here we have another one. This one was originally written and recorded by Dallas Frazier in 1966. Back then, it only get up to number 72. But here, the Oak Ridge Boys would do much better. At number 6, here is Elvira. If you're curious as to who this Elvira is and why is she so special, well, Elvira isn't a woman, but the name of a street in East Nashville, Tennessee. It's time for our TV theme trivia. I've been way too easy on you lately. Time to step it up a little bit.
NBC Sunday Big Event returns following these messages.
Monday, it's a special memory from Little House when Laura gets married. Next, Bob Hope celebrates spring with Brooke Shields, Lonnie Anderson, Melissa Manchester, Donna Dixon, and more. Then, George Burns in Nashville with Loretta Lynn, the Gatlin Brothers, Minnie Pearl, and some country fun. It's a specials night on NBC.
Look, there's Lynda Carter.
And I've got something terrific for your nails. Now, the smooth, professional look of a salon manicure is captured in a bottle. New Maybelline Manicure Nail Color. Professional manicurists help develop it. Each fashion color has a base and glossy sealer built right in. That's why it goes on this smooth, gleaming, and tough. The smooth, professional look of a salon manicure is captured in a bottle. New Maybelline Manicure Nail Color.
There's nothing like my skyscraper deluxe, except for my skyscraper with milk.
There's nothing like something with milk.
There's nothing like Max's 3-alarm chili.
Except Max's chili with milk.
There's nothing like something with milk.
There's nothing like my mom's chocolate chip cookies, except for her cookies with milk.
You can munch something or lunch something or build something yourself, but there's nothing like something with milk.
I am stuck on Band-Aid brand, cause Band-Aid stuck on me.
I am stuck on Band-Aid, cause Band-Aid stuck on me. Cause they hold on tight and bathtub and they cling and soapy touch.
Only Band-Aid brand adhesive bandages from Johnson & Johnson have our Super Stay-On adhesive. You'll notice the difference because it stays on you better than anything else you can buy.
I am stuck on Band-Aid, cause Band-Aid stuck on me.
For the first 3 seasons of the hit show MASH, Wayne Rogers starred as Trapper John. In 1979, he returned to television as Dr. Charlie Michaels, a handsome doctor trying to win the affections of hospital administrator Ann Atkinson, played by Lynn Redgrave, in this CBS medical sitcom, House Calls. House Calls was inspired by the 1978 film of the same name, which starred Walter Matthau and Glenda Jackson. The first 2 seasons were a big hit. But before filming Season 3, Lynn Redgrave was fired from the series following the birth of her new child. She insisted on bringing her daughter to work, and in part because she wanted to be able to breastfeed the baby on schedule. But this was interpreted by the studio as holding out for more money. Redgrave sued Universal for breaking her existing contract, but was never rehired, and the suit was dismissed several years later. CBS replaced Redgrave with Sharon Gless on the show, but the series was canceled in early 1982, despite still finishing the season in the top 25. Number 5. Hitmakers Daryl Hall and John Oates continue to write the soundtrack to the early 80s. Here's their latest, the 3rd single from their album Voices, You Make My Dreams.
But like a flame that burns a candle, the candle fades.
That was Daryl Hall and John Oates with a song that continues to live on through popular culture. It's been featured in films from Step Brothers to Ready Player One. And it's currently played by the Toronto Maple Leafs whenever the home team scores a goal throughout the 2018-19 season. You're a little Italian plumber named Jumpman, taking on a menacing ape in the new video game Donkey Kong. The premise was simple. Your player, who would later be named Mario, must jump over barrels, fireballs, and other hazards to rescue Pauline from the evil Donkey Kong. Keys to its success was it being one of the earliest examples of the platform game genre, and with its 4 unique stages, it was the most complex arcade game at this time. The hero and the ape will soon become 2 of Nintendo's most famous characters. It looks like pinball games are going the way of the dinosaur, according to Saul Nimps, a Toronto businessman. Saul, who has been in the pinball business for 48 years, said only 2 buyers showed up to his recent warehouse sale, and he is blaming this new popular video games as the culprit. Richard Pryor is trying to pay it forward with his ongoing commitment to ending gang warfare in Los Angeles. But unfortunately, he is struggling. Pryor put the word out to about 100 gang leaders to meet him on a Saturday afternoon to talk about how they're planning to spend the $200,000 he gave them. Only 6 gang leaders showed up. Not deterred, Pryor is personally calling the leaders, asking them to meet at his home. Wonder how that went. In a quasi-sequel to a 1976 similar comic book, the comic book companies DC and Marvel joined forces for the special crossover issue Superman and Spider-Man.
Okay, America, show us your tummies.
Our tummies? What tummies? You can't see our tummies or panty lines because we wear slenderalls, pantyhose, and control panties all in one.
Oh, well, okay, America, then could you show us your slenderalls? Wow, look at all those slenderalls. Where?
Slenderalls. On sale now at participating stores.
Where?
Movie fans flocked to such blockbusters as Superman 2 and Raiders of the Lost Ark in such abundance this summer that box office dollar records were smashed for 2 consecutive weeks. Variety said gross U.S. box office receipts for the week of June 24th were just over $100 million, breaking the record of $94 million set a week earlier. Worldwide Church of God members R. Lawrence Kuhn and Stanley Rader file a $100 million suit against Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, claiming their film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, is based on Kuhn's copyrighted work titled Ark, which he submitted to the IMC Talent Agency. I'm sorry, that's ICM Talent Agency. ICM formerly represented Spielberg and Lucas. Rumors exist that this case was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. And they say that every legend is born of some truth. Well, this might be the origin of one of the legends. A 20-year-old university student in Tokyo wished for the powers of Superman as he jumped out of his 40-foot dorm window to what can be assumed a messy death. Ken Doi had just returned from seeing the hit film Superman 2 and had been drinking with his friends. One of his friends later quoted Doi as saying, quote, "I wish I could jump from the 5th floor like the Superman."
Number 4.
This song would take its sweet time climbing up the charts. It debuted in the Hot 100 chart way back in March. This month, it's at number 4. But will it top the charts? Here is Rick Springfield with Jesse's Girl.
Jesse is a friend. Yeah, I know he's been a good friend of mine. But lately something's changed, it ain't hard to define. Jesse's got himself a girl and I wanna make her mine. And she's watching him with those eyes, and she's loving with that body, I just know it. And he's holding her in his arms late at night. You know I wish that I had Jesse's girl. I wish that I doesn't seem to be a reason to change. You know, I feel so dirty when they start talking cute. I wanna tell her that I love her, but the point is probably moot. 'Cause she's watching him with those eyes, and she's loving him with that body, I just know it. And he's holding her in his arms late, late at night. You know, I wish that I had Jesse's girl. I wish that I had Jesse's girl. Where can I find a woman like that, like Jesse's girl? I wish that I had Jesse's girl. Where can I find a woman? Where can I find a woman like that? Then I'm looking in the mirror all the time, wondering what she don't see in me. I've been funny, I've been cool with the lines. Ain't that the way love's supposed to be? Tell me, where can I find a woman like that? You know, I wish that I had Jesse's girl. I wish that I had Jesse's girl. I want Jesse's girl. Where can I find a woman like that, like Jesse's girl? I wish that I had Jesse's girl. I want Jesse's girl.
Who is Jessie, and who is Jesse's girl, you might ask? Well, it seems that Jessie is another name for Rick Springfield's friend named Gary. And the girl? Well, Springfield says it doesn't really matter. He doesn't remember the name of the girlfriend, and the real woman who inspired the song likely doesn't even know that she is Jessie's girl. What a mystery. We got some new releases this month on LP, cassette, and 8-track. The fourth studio album by Foreigner is appropriately titled 4. The album would hold the number 1 position on the Billboard album chart for a total of 10 weeks and go on to sell over 7 million copies. The debut from young girl group The Go-Go's is released, titled Beauty and the Beat. It would be a slow burn, but eventually it'll top the Billboard charts. English hard rock band Def Leppard returned with their second album, High and Dry. The Ramones are back with their 6th studio album, Pleasant Dreams, featuring the fan favorite, The KKK Took My Baby Away. Rockers Journey are back with their 7th studio album, Escape. To put it mildly, this record was huge. It topped the Billboard charts, 3 top 10 singles, 9 million copies sold. The band even had an Atari 2600 video game based on the album, released in 1982. With these accolades, I guess I had to play something off this one. It's hard to find a deep cut. So many of these songs have become so known in pop culture. But I found one. From Escape, here is Journey with Keep On Runnin'.
Crying.
After spending the 70s as a background singer and singing commercial jingles for Burger King and Juicy Fruit, Luther Vandross has paid his dues and releases his debut album, Never Too Much. Backed by the hit title track, the album would sell 2 million copies and earn Vandross 2 Grammy nominations. Canadian singer Bryan Adams returns with his second album, You Want It, You Got It. Fleetwood Mac is on hiatus right now, and 2 of its members are releasing solo albums this month. First, drummer Mick Fleetwood releases The Visitor, and Stevie Nicks' debut solo effort Belladonna hits stores. The latter is a huge success with 2 top 10 singles helping Nicks sell over 5 million copies in the U.S. alone. The lead singer of the band that provided the top single in 1980, combined with the production team of Diana Ross's hugely successful recent album, should spell instant success, right? Well, it doesn't seem to work out for Debbie Harry's debut album, Coco. It was not nearly as successful as Blondie's previous work. R&B group The Time released their debut self-titled album, which was produced and arranged by a person named Jamie Starr, who was actually pop star Prince using a moniker. Riding the success of last year's Horizon, Eddie Rabbitt doesn't waste much time to get back into the studio to record his 7th album. This one is called Step by Step. Pat Benatar releases her 3rd album, Precious Time. It would be her first album to chart in the UK. Foghat is back with their 10th album, Girls to Chat and Boys to Bounce. Taking a more synth-pop approach, Electric Light Orchestra returns with their 9th studio album, the futuristic concept album, Time. And rock band ZZ Top are starting to experiment a little bit, having more synthesizers on their records. Their 7th album, El Loco, is released this month, and it features Tube Snake Boogie. Number 3. If you looked up love songs in the dictionary, chances are you might find a picture of this musical duo along with the definition. Here is Air Supply with another one which was surely a hit for the couple skate. Here is The One That You Love.
Now the night has gone, now the night has gone away. Doesn't seem that long, we hardly had 2 words to say. Hold me in your arms for just another day. I promise this one will go slow. Oh, we have the right, you know. We have the right, you know. Don't say the morning's come, don't say the morning's come so soon. Must we end this way when so much here is hard to lose? Love is everywhere, I know it is. Such moments as this are too few. Oh, it's all up to you. It's all up to you. Here I am, the one that you love, asking for another day. Understand, the one that you love loves you in so many ways. Stay, oh please. They are the words to say, the only words I can believe. Hold me in your arms for just another day. I promise this one will go slow. Oh, we have the right, you know. We have the right, you know. You love, asking for another day. Understand, the one that you love loves you in so many ways. Here I am, the one that you love, asking for another day. Understand, the one that you love loves you in so many ways.
With the first single from their album of the same name, that was Air Supply with The One That You Love, a song that will top the charts in between episodes of this particular program. Let's take a look at those who came and went from the world in the month of July 1981. Born are actors Taylor Kinney, Summer Glau, and Ryan Hansen, along with musicians Sinister Gates of Avenged Sevenfold and American Idol contestant Blake Lewis. We say goodnight to Polish actor George Volskovek. He passes away at the age of 76. Volskovek is best known to U.S. audiences as the 11th juror in the 1957 film 12 Angry Men. Actor Ross Martin was best known for portraying Artemis Gordon on the CBS series Wild Wild West. He He died of a heart attack while playing tennis at the age of 61. Miami Dolphins linebacker Rusty Chambers and another man are killed in an auto crash on a Louisiana highway. 25-year-old Federico De Laurentiis, the only son of movie producer Dino De Laurentiis, is killed when two small planes collide over the Bristol Bay Area of Alaska. Robert Moses, the master builder who changed the face of New York City over a half-century, passes away at the age of 92. Moses built virtually every major artery and many bridges and parks in the New York area. That includes Shea Stadium, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, the United Nations Plaza, and Lincoln Center. 6-year-old Adam Walsh was abducted from a Sears department store in Florida, and his severed head was found 2 weeks later in a drainage canal. His other remains were never found, and his case never solved. His death earned huge national publicity, and his father, John Walsh, became an advocate for victims of violent crimes and later the host of the television program America's Most Wanted. On his way to perform at a free concert that evening, 39-year-old singer-songwriter Harry Chapin is killed in an auto accident along the Long Island Expressway. Chapin was destined to become a success in life. He originally wanted to be a documentary filmmaker and directed Legendary Champions in 1968. It went on to become nominated for an Academy Award. In 1971, he decided to focus on music. Within a year, music labels were fighting over his rights. Elektra won out, and Heads and Tails would be an international success, selling over 1 million copies. With his success, he turned to social activism, co-founding the organization World Hunger Year, and the majority of his concerts were benefit performances. After his death, his widow Sandy said, with only a slight exaggeration, that Harry was supporting 17 relatives, 14 associations, 7 foundations, and 82 charities. Harry wasn't interested in saving money. He always said, money is for people. We've all heard his hit song Cats in the Cradle plenty of times. Let's hear something a little different. Here is the title track from his 1977 album, Dance Band on the Titanic.
Dance band on the Titanic, sing dear my God to thee. The icebergs on the starboard bow, won't you dance with me?
Mama stood crying at the dockside, saying, please, son, don't take this trip. I said, Mama, sweet mama, don't you worry none. Even God couldn't sink this ship. Well, the whistle blew, and they turned the screws. It turned the water into foam. Destination, sweet salvation. Goodbye home, sweet home. I'm in the dance band on the Titanic. Sing near my God to thee. The icebergs on the starboard bow, won't you dance with me? There was a trombone and a saxophone. The bass and drums were cooking on the bandstand, and I was strumming in the middle with his dude on the fiddle, and we were 3 days out from land. Now the foghorns jammed and moaning, hear it groaning through the misty night. I heard the lookout shout down, there's icebergs around, but still everything's alright. Oh, the dance band on the Titanic, sing near my God to thee. The icebergs on the starboard bow, won't you dance with me? They were burning all the flares with candles. In the banquet they were throwing in first class, and we were blowing waltzes in a ballroom when the universe went crash. There's no way that this could happen. I could hear the old captain curse. He ordered lifeboats away. That's when I heard the chaplain say, women and children and chaplains first. Well, they soon used up all of the lifeboats, but there were a lot of us left on board. drummer saying, boys, just keep playing. Now we're doing this thing for the Lord. I heard the dance band on the Titanic sing near my God to thee. The icebergs on the starboard bow, won't you dance with me? There's a wild-eyed boy in the radio shack. He's the last remaining guest. He was tapping in a Morse code frenzy, tapping please God SOS. Jesus Christ, walk on the water where a music man will drown. They say that Nero fiddled wild on murder. Well, I was drumming as the ship go down. I'm in the dance band of the Titanic, sing near my God to thee. The icebergs on the starboard bow, won't you dance with me? The dance band of the Titanic, sing near my God to thee. The icebergs on the starboard bow, won't you dance with me?
From 1977, that was a dance band on the Titanic by Harry Chapin, who died this month in 1981 at the age of 39.
Number 2.
This is the first recording that George Harrison, Paul McCartney, and Ringo Starr made since the Beatles' I, Me, Mine in 1970. Unfortunately, it took the death of bandmate John Lennon to get them together. Here is George Harrison with All Those Years Ago.
I'm shouting all about love. Well, they treated you like a dog, and you were the one who had made it so clear all those years ago. Talking all about how to give. They don't act with much honesty, but you put the way to the truth when you say all you need is love. Living with good or bad, I always looked up to you. Now we're left cold inside by someone, the devil's best friend, someone who abandoned all. We're living in a bad dream. They've forgotten all about mankind, and you were the one they backed up to the wall all those years ago. You were the one who imagined it all those years ago. All those years ago. All those years ago. Deep in the darkest night, I send out a prayer to you. Now in the world of light, where the spirit realizes all else that we despise, they forgot all about God. It's the only reason we exist. Yet you were the one that they said was so weird all those years ago. You said it all, but how many had ears all those years ago? You had control of our smiles and our tears all those years ago. All those years ago.
From George Harrison's Somewhere in England album, that was All Those Years Ago. Prior to Lennon's death, Harrison wrote a different version of the song for Ringo Starr to record, which he did. But Starr wasn't happy with the lyrics or his vocal performance, so the song was shelved. Every month we take a look back at a song that we know so well all these years later. It must have been a top 10 hit, but alas, it never cracked the Billboard Top 10 charts. But we still honor it here. It's our song that should have but didn't. This month's song that should have but didn't is written and performed by Joe Walsh. He originally recorded the majority of the song back in 1973, but it came back reborn on his fifth studio album, There Goes the Neighborhood. It topped the mainstream rock charts, but only peaked at number 34 on the Hot 100 charts, making Joe Walsh's A Life of Illusion this month's song that should have but didn't. The number one single of the week ending July 18th, 1981 is also the biggest single of the whole year. The answer? Coming up after this.
Joey called this morning.
So how's Joey? What's wrong?
Nothing.
Nothing? Our Joey called 2,000 miles. The kids are all right?
Fine.
Sally?
Fine.
The kids are fine. Sally's fine. So why did he call?
I asked him that too.
And why are you crying?
Because Joey said I'd call just because I love you, Mom.
Reach out and touch someone.
For the third consecutive episode of Pop History Podcast, Here is Kim Carnes topping the chart once again with Betty Davis Eyes.
Her hair is hollow gold, her lips sweet surprise. Her hands are never cold. She's got Betty Davis eyes. She'll turn her music on you. You won't have to think twice. She's pure as New York snow. She got Betty Davis eyes. And she'll tease you, she'll unease you, of a better just to please you. She's precocious, and she knows just what it takes to make a pro blush. She got Greta Garbo, stand-off style. She's got Betty Davis eyes. She'll let you take her home. You whet her appetite. She'll lay you on the throne. She got Betty Davis eyes. She'll take a tumble on you, roll you like you were dice, until you come out blue. She's got Betty Davis eyes. She'll expose you when she snows you, off your feet with the crumbs she throws you. She's ferocious, and she knows just what it takes to make a pro blush. All the boys think she's a spy. She's got Betty Davis eyes. And she'll tease you, she'll unease you, of a better just to please you. She's precocious, and she knows just what it takes to make a pro blush. All the boys think she's a spy. She's got Betty Davis
Think you know all the lyrics to that record? There's much confusion over whether the lyrics are "She knows just what it takes to make a crow blush" or "Pro blush." Jackie DeShannon's original 1974 version sings "Pro," but Kim Carnes recorded it as "Pro" in her version. That does it for another episode of Pop History Podcast. Thanks for listening, and for all your classic hits, stay tuned for another episode of WPHP Pop History Podcast.
Thanks for listening to Pop History Podcast. Please leave a review on iTunes, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or email us at pophistorypodcast@yahoo.com. Your host and producer is Jay Jackson. Theme music by Jason Parkhurst. All other music used herein is the property of their respective songwriters, publishers, and recording companies, and are used within this podcast for historical and educational purposes. Pop History Podcast is copyright 2018.
What is that humming noise? That's horrible. Is it going to stop? Is it ever going to stop? No. We say goodnight to Polish actor George Voskovic. Polish actor George Voskovic. We say goodnight to Polish actor George Voskovic. We say goodnight to Polish actor George Volskovek. We say goodnight to Polish actor George Volskovek.